This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Had a busy day yesterday in the BTL studios. We kind of wrapped things up with a classic recap. We brought in the OG Mark Jeffries, who gave his thoughts on Saturday when he attended the Bassmaster Classic Expo. We also brought in Dan O'Sullivan from Advanced Angler, who broke it down, as well as Scott Palmer from the Bass Tank, whose title-sponsored angler, Justin Hamner, won the Bassmaster Classic. And then in the afternoon, Justin Hamner jumped on for 40 minutes. And if you haven't had a chance to watch that, there's going to be a lot more interviews with Justin Hamner, and I think it's impossible for him to not be genuine. One of the good guys in the sport that a lot of us pull for, a lot of his fellow anglers pull for, from Northport, Alabama, gets the job done with just over 58 pounds of bass on Grand Lake. If you're looking for kind of the comprehensive Bassmaster Classic recap, check out those two shows. Also did a initial reaction show with writer Pete Robbins on Sunday night. So been burning the candle at both ends here. And then Gretchen and Katie from St. Jude were in to take in their first classic. And I was unaware that Gretchen had never fished, even though she ran a tournament that so far has raised over $7 million for the St. Jude Children's Hospital. So a little bit of a surprise. Katie texted me and said, "Hey, do you think we can get Gretchen out on the lake?" And I said, yeah, we can do that. So I got tied a little crankbait on a spinning rod. We went out and we spot locked in the middle of Shawnee Twin Lakes and had a casting lesson. And then once she got that down, we caught us a 2-pound, 7-ounce largemouth. So it took a little bit of convincing to get Gretchen to hold it, but now she deals with fishermen and anglers and running that St. Jude Bass Classic, and now she can say that she caught a bass. But we're back in studio. Great guest today, Luke Palmer from Colgate, Oklahoma. I feel kind of bad. So there's a couple of these anglers that live out in the boondocks without great internet, and they have to drive to get Wi-Fi. Luke's one of those, so we're going to bring him in. Before we do, though, I do want to let everybody know, if you see this right here, this is the softest, most comfortable quarter zip I've ever had on. It's been a long time in the making, but the BTL merch is live for 14 days. The store opened yesterday. High-end stuff, Frank's Signature Series apparel. I'm going to show it right there. There's the share screen. That is just basszone.com. Click on the Shop BTL tab. Shop BTL. Takes you to the BTL apparel store. Have some of the OG, the original stuff right there. Brought back a lot of black with the green. You know, you can click on it. There's also a gray with the BTL. But this is the cool stuff that I'm excited about. Some of the new Circle logo. We went with a heavyweight dyed tee. Couple more dollars, but the neck doesn't stretch out on it. I got the sample pieces at the Classic because I guess as I approach 40, I'm all about the quality stuff. So get on there, check it out. There's a ladies pullover tee. There's also a youth hoodie on there for the younger crowd. Met a lot of young BTL listeners at the Bassmaster Classic Expo, which was awesome. And then the limited edition Frank Scalish stuff with the smallmouth, the largemouth, and the spotted bass shirt. There's the shirt right there. The back's got Frank's signature. So that is 14 days only. The way that I can do that to make it feasible for everybody is to not have a ton. So you order it, then in 14 days, they'll make a run and they'll ship it to you. If you have any questions about the apparel, DM me at Matt Pangrak on Instagram, and I can help you out. I am 6 foot, 180 pounds, and the hoodie in large fits even after washed. This is the large quarter zip. It fits a lot of room, a lot of comfy on it. The large t-shirt fits me perfect, but that's just some of the dimensions for that. So had to get that in before we get to our guest. And there he is right there. Luke Palmer, thanks for jumping in the truck and joining BTL.
Oh, yeah, it's always a good time. Always, like you said, I've got to do a little driving every now and then to go snag me some Wi-Fi so I can see what's going on.
So when the apparel order came in, I said, hey, I need a couple of dozen hats. So I've got a Richardson 112 Bass Talk Live, black front, mesh back with your name on it.
Perfect. I'll take one for dang sure.
You're definitely a Richardson 112 guy.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know that.
Yeah, you can't be from that part of the country and then do the farming and the hardware stuff like you walk in any other hat. There's a couple others that are decent now, but I mean the Richardson 112 is a standby. So
I don't know. I got some. I have some flex fits that New Threads makes me, and
legit.
Yeah, they're actually legit. I'm not because I don't know. I've got a weird shaped head, so they just don't fit. Sometimes they just don't fit right, especially wearing sunglasses. They push it down my nose, so I gotta figure out something different. So the flex fits do pretty good for me.
I used to be a flex fit guy back in the day when I would consistently go backwards hat. But now I feel like I'm like definitely in the second half of my backwards hat career. Like I'm closer to the end of being able to do that than I was, younger.
Oh yeah. Well, there's those certain nights that it goes on backwards.
Right. Yeah. But then typically those nights you don't remember that it was ever on backwards.
Yeah, that's the issue of that problem there though.
All right. We were talking a little bit before we went live. I know how tired I am after just doing 3 days of the expo and driving from the expo back to Shawnee, which is just an hour and a half. All I had to do was be there at 10 o'clock every morning. And, I was home at night. We've gone through BTL over the last week and a half, what the classic schedule is like. You got to be freaking wiped out, dude.
Dude, it was nuts. Like I've been tired before, but for some reason, this one was the most brutal one I've been to. I don't know if it was because the weather changed every day or what, but I know, which we stayed there, we stayed and went to the Toast for Champion and stuff like that on Sunday night. And I told Aaron, I said, we're going to stay the night. I said, we thought about just driving on home. I was like, it would feel nice to go get in my own bed, but I said, to hell with that. We'll get up, which we got up. His mom flew out Monday morning anyway. We had her at the airport at 9:30 or so. We got home yesterday, and it was like he went to his room, I went to mine, and it was like, don't talk to me for a couple hours at least, and crashed out because it was. Once we got unloaded, man, it was. I don't know why. I don't know. It was wild this year because that 3 hours a day of driving, that's rough.
It is 90 miles. We've talked about that. Typically, you're going to have a little bit of drive. I know they've got a drive at Guntersville. They have a drive. They're going to have a little bit of a drive in Fort Worth next year. The Houston Classic, there was a drive. It's just kind of logistics as far as you get the host city to do it, where the lake is located, and there's just not a lot of good classic lakes that can hold the competition, that have the facilities for the launch and the blast off, that are close to the big cities, that also have the arenas. I think that's also why you see a lot of the repeat classics also, a Hartwell, a Grand, a Red River, what we're seeing in Fort Worth, because, as the crowds continue to get bigger and bigger and more people come to launch, like you're kind of limited, especially in the time of the year too, as to where you can have the classics. But here's my question to you, Luke. Do you feel that tiredness and exhaustion during the week, or do you think that it feels so draining after because you're on such an adrenaline rush for so long?
There's a little bit of adrenaline, but man, it was once we practiced for 3 days and then off 2, and you're really never off because there's always something going on. You're on phone calls, just the regular stuff. But I tell you one thing, I think it was Saturday night. We got home at 9:30, 15 till 10 on Friday night, and the same time Saturday night. I was beat. Like it was even Aaron, and all he did was camera guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, dude, he said, I feel hammered, and we haven't done anything all week. It's bad.
So what was your tournament day schedule? So like Friday, the first day of the classic, like walk us through, like what time did the alarm go off? Like what is a full classic day schedule like?
See, we kind of got lucky. Parents and stuff, we rented an Airbnb there at Honey Creek. So we were 10 minutes from launch every morning. So that was great. So we got up at, our alarm go off 5:15, 5:30, whatever. And as long as we left the house by 6, a little after, we were fine. But then, by the time you get to the lake and go through all the hoopla in the mornings and then fish all day, then jump in the boat or a truck and drive, 75, 80 mile an hour to get to the expo.
The OK Center.
Yeah. Yeah. And time we get there, it's not a hard drive. It's just 90 miles, it's easy, but it's just, I don't know. It was something. Then time, weigh-ins take a good amount of time. And so it was, get out at 8:00 and then try to get back in the truck and drive another 90 miles and crawl in bed at 10:30, get back. We ain't even ate yet. And it's 9:30 at night. So, because there's really not that many places to pull over on the way to Grove to grab something to eat.
Yeah, no, it's on the highway. So here's what I wanted to do with you, Luke. You finished 21st in the Classic. You made the final day. You had a couple of big bites. It was a solid Classic performance. Obviously, 21 places short of what you would probably deem a successful tournament. But we've talked to Hamner more about kind of the whole experience. We've talked to pundits, we've talked to experts, we've had people break it down, but I want to get into you on the nitty gritty on what the lake was like, what the fishing was like, why some things happened in your opinion, why other things didn't play in your opinion. So we're going to dive into the actual fishing standpoint, what went down in Grove, Oklahoma on Grand Lake between the Elk River and the dam. You good with that?
Yep.
It was pretty apparent based on what we saw in the local tournaments and the Nichols that took place the week before, at least in my opinion, that this wasn't going to be a mega slugfest. Were you aware of how Grand was fishing going in, looking at obvious public results of the 200 plus boat tournaments and the local tournaments that were taking place, knowing that 20 pounds would be A-OK in this derby?
Oh yeah, it's Oklahoma. Everybody's like, oh, they were guessing like 62, 64 pounds to win. I'm like, no, unless there's something a different Oklahoma, then no. I was not. I knew that wasn't going to happen. I guess 55 pound or 55 and a half to win it, and it really wasn't that far off. Oklahoma, you can handle normally 2 days of 20-pound bags, but to do it 3 days in a row is almost unheard of, unless you have something just completely special, So that was, in which Hamner had a special deal going, apparently. But I knew with how the weights were going and those team tournaments that are up there, those guys are good at Grand. You can fish Grand all year long and make a living if you're really good up there, because there's a tournament or two every single weekend up there, and there's some good guys.
For the record, it took 58-3 to win, or 58-3 to win, and my prediction was 58-12. So I was pretty proud of that. I was also kind of pissed because I was like 9 ounces off from additional 100 bonus points on fantasy fishing, and the biggest thing I've got going this year is I have to beat Todd Castledine. If I don't like that, there's a lot of things I would give up in life to beat Todd Castledine in fantasy fishing this year. So I was proud of my close pick. So going into that, let me ask you this. The minnow bite, the offshore, the 100% scope bite has dominated fishing for the last year. And I don't even want to get into that discussion, but here's what I want to get into. You're a power guy. I'm sure you went into Grand knowing what you wanted to do. We've also seen you out there with the spinning rod, with the minnow. We've seen you win in a hybrid scenario on Santee Cooper, where you were using your electronics, but also power fishing for them. So with 3 days of official practice and 3 days of classic practice and 1 day of official practice, as a guy who's familiar with Grand, was that playing in your head? Are these guys going to beat me on this stuff that traditionally hasn't played on Grand? Do I need to go try to find something like that and not be hard-headed? Or did you know going in that there would be a contingent that could compete on the bank or doing kind of a hybrid scope power fishing technique?
I went with the hybrid deal. I didn't, because people don't realize how many, I don't know if you can say trash fish, I'm talking carp and drum and stuff like that, are in all these lakes in Oklahoma. I mean, when you went out there, you would try to scope in the middle of a pocket or brush piles, and you would see so many fish. Like if you threw at all the fish you've seen, and not even the big ones, I'm talking like fish you knew that were from 2 to 4 pounds, and even the drum acted just like bass, and you would just go nuts. You'd stay in one pocket for 3 days of practicing just throwing at fish. And with that, I had a terrible practice, man. Like I was not happy. And finally on day 3 of practice, I finally caught a couple of 4-pounders. Like I had literally caught 11 or 12 pounds a day in practice. And then I think on that Wednesday, I caught 16, 17 pounds in about an hour and a half. And I was like, okay, this is going to work. I never caught a single keeper doing that in the tournament.
And that's out in the middle.
No, that was like, I went cranking. I had, that mid-range depth, that 6, 10 foot, and they were there. Never caught a fish during the tournament doing it.
I think they moved, or you just...
Dude, I don't know. I hit it for 3 days straight and done the same thing, and they would not fire at all. Never caught a single fish off of the banks and points that I fished and caught them cranking in practice.
It seemed like there were two kind of primary areas where it fired, which was above Sailboat Bridge. In that area, there's some action in Wolf and some of that pockets above that, and then down around the Horse Creek area. Is that a fair assessment as kind of the two most productive areas where most of the bites came from? And then is that kind of where you focused on as well?
Yeah, I stayed more mid-lake. Now I say that I burned 30 gallons on Sunday of practice. I went up the Elk, I went up the Neosho, but I think the Neosho, we got a big storm that came through that Thursday before.
Okay.
And it probably dumped 2 inches of rain, and it took the Neosho from a good color to milk. And that's not good. The water was super warm up there, 64, 65. You thought that would have been the deal, but I went up there and I said, it's never one up here. I'm not going to stay up here. I knew the Horse Creek area, that stuff through there was going to be the primary. There's something about where 2 or 3 creek and rivers meet that everything goes down, and so it's been one out of the Horse Creek area twice now. Because, when Cliff Pace won it, then he went it out of that area.
Yeah, he was in Drowning a little bit, and he was in Horse a little bit as well. Yeah, it was. And then remember, Ike was in Horse when he had the dog meltdown and caught him in there. Like Horse, I don't think has there ever been a tournament on Grand, because it's big, right? Too. Yeah. So you could say Horse and it's miles. Like you could fish Horse and never see your buddy that's fishing Horse at the same time, or you could be son of a guns on the 3 brush piles I wanted to fish. Yeah. But I think Horse is always going to play on Grand until the end of time.
Oh yeah.
12 months out of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Especially if the water gets up in the willows.
Yeah.
That would have been a sweet tournament if we could have accidentally had about 4 inches of rain and it had got up.
Because it would have been warm enough because of the winter that we had, where those suckers would have been up there because it was high 50s water degree, and we'd have seen top water, offshore flipping, and willow flipping.
Well, you seen Christie, he was throwing a spook the day one.
Hackney started out with a plopper.
Yeah, I'd seen some fish kind of schooling around. I was like, those are dinks. Well, that first morning when I went all the way down through my stuff and never got bit, I was like, what the heck is going on? And pulled back in there, started schooling. I caught 5 keepers, and I mean, just no time. And there was like 30 more there, and I just left them because I was like, well, they're all 2-pounders, so they're not doing me any good. But it gave me a limit, and I think I caught them all, well, 2 of the 3 days. I should have caught them in there in day 3 too, but there was just wads of them that all of a sudden showed up. Like there would be schools of 20 to 40 bass swimming around.
Any of them good?
I caught 1 4-pounder out of some, and a lot of them were 2.5 to 3-pounders. So it was weird. It wasn't the normal, not that
I've never. That seemed really rare to me on Grand to see the schools about that. Almost like it reminded me of a Hartwell herring drain, which I've not. I don't know whether I've just missed it. Like I said, I haven't spent a ton of time on Grand in the past 5 years, but that was not Grand like to see the fish coming up schooling and seeing Christy cast into him with a spook first thing in the morning.
That kind of blew my mind. Like I said a buzzbait was going to play, but I mean, we just kept having different conditions every day, and it wouldn't allow it to happen, to really happen. And I think if the lake was up about another foot, because those little bit of laydowns that were right there on the edge of the water that were borderline those fish would have got on them. And I think you could have just put a buzzbait on and just went cover in water.
Was it Cobb who said that he threw a buzzbait and a spinnerbait exclusively the last day? That he just put those things in his hands and just covered water? It might have been it. If there's one guy, I mean, I don't feel like I would not hate myself if I got that wrong because that's what he does. But I think that he came up on stage and said, dude, I just threw a buzzbait and a spinnerbait all day.
Now if he ever gets a bite on a buzzbait, he's done. He will put that in his hand and go. I mean, I've never seen anybody talk about get stubborn on it. He'll do it. I mean, which at Hartwell, if you ever do get 5 bites or, in that part of the world on a buzzbait, you're going to be okay,
I do remember a classic. I think it was a Hartwell classic that Wheeler was in. He caught a couple good ones on a buzzbait, and that water was in like the upper 40s there.
Yeah. That one that Christy almost won.
Yep.
That one there. Yeah. I remember him throwing it. It kind of shocked me. It was early, but when they get up shallow, I've kind of noticed that water temperature doesn't always dictate what they do. I mean, I've caught them in 40-degree water schooling. So it's kind of, you just don't ever know. You just kind of got what you got in front of you sometimes.
Did really Down Lake play at all in this classic? The Ketchum, Rapier, Dripping Springs, like anything kind of south of Duck play at all? Because we've seen that play in past classics, not win, but we've definitely seen guys make runs at it.
I know on day 3, whenever we were running down, I passed some guys and everybody turned right at horse. There was nobody that kept going straight. And once I got down there toward that way, I wasn't way all the way down. I was like, there's probably a reason why there's nobody down here. And I'm by myself. Not always good.
Do you think that was a time of the year thing, or in your opinion, and I know you're in Colgate, which is about as far away from Grand as you can get, but you're an Oklahoma guy. You know how that lake fishes. Do you think that lake has flipped in the past 10 years, where it used to seem like all the big bags, the big winning bags came from Down Lake, and now we're seeing Mid Lake up play a lot more in the top end bags, not the 8, it just seems like that Down Lake used to be the jam where all the guys would be, hey, you want to win, you go Down Lake, you want to compete, you stay mid up. But now it seems like Down Lake is real hit or miss.
I think it, and there's thousands of fish in these lakes. Don't get me wrong. There's thousands, millions, but you're talking how many tournaments a week are up at Grand, and you start relocating those bass all the way to Wolf Creek, because that's where 98% of the tournaments are at Grand.
Yep.
You start relocating the same way you follow. Look at the Open last year. It was one and pretty much the first mile.
You follow code. The miracle mile is what we call it.
That's pretty much it. And I was really surprised we didn't see 2 or 3 guys top 10 it right there out of Wolf Creek. And I think if you really would have just stayed there and fished, you know what I mean? It probably happened. But I think too, the Down Lake in practice, I went down there and I practiced one day on that end, and there were so many trash fish up in the water column, and it was just like it just wasn't happening. And it might have been one of those deals like we talked. I didn't get out in that mid-range crankbait deal. I think if I'd have maybe done that on that end, it could have been different. But I don't know. The shad were all the way in the backs down there. And it's like, where in the hell are all the bass at? They were already, because out in the main lake was like still around 50, 52. But as soon as you'd pull off like in Ketchum Creek, heck, it was like 58, 59, 60 all the way in the backs already. So,
and no fish up yet on beds.
I did not get it. I just
Did you look?
I didn't look.
Okay.
And I mean, I wish I kind of would have because, which I know I talked to Benton and them a little bit, and he said he'd seen some empty beds.
Oh, wow.
Prosnick said, well, that one that Corey broke off on the final day, he said was a giant that was over 8. It was on a bed. So
wow.
It's starting to happen. I mean, hell, when the water gets over 58 degrees in Oklahoma, it's going to start happening, but I did too look up at Grand. We're still in March.
Yeah.
Normally don't get on beds till mid-April,
Are you a water temp guy or a length of day guy when it comes to fish moving up?
I'm more of a water temp. I want it at least consistently over 57, for them to really get on beds, and stay there. Because I mean, if it's blistering cold for 7 days straight, they're not going to stay up there with the water temperature, even if we got, long days to me. But Chickamauga, when I was there 2 years ago, it was snowing and them things were still on beds there. So riddle me that.
That's interesting. Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk spinnerbaits. The past classics has come in, with the Christie, they had the covert that came out right before the last classic. I know you caught a couple of big ones on a spinnerbait. We saw Adam Rasmussen make a run at this thing on a spinnerbait, even though the classic was won on a jerkbait. Heck, I got Luke Palmer. It's spring. The storms are coming in, and I need some spinnerbait advice. So we're going to talk non-grass lake spinnerbaits and what you're looking for with Luke Palmer. It's a BTL on a Tuesday. Remember, basszone.com, shop BTL merch store open for another 13 days. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Gamakatsu, the innovation leader in fish hooks, is launching Nano Alpha technology in 2024. Nano Alpha is a new finish available on Gamakatsu's most popular hook styles. It delivers 2 times slicker performance, 4 times better corrosion resistance. Nano Alpha technology makes the world's greatest fish hooks even better in 2024 to help anglers catch more fish.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 100, Strike King.
AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
Welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday, talking with Luke Palmer. Let's talk spinnerbaits, because this played played a big role in this classic. Heck, the thing was almost won on a spinnerbait. Adam Rasmussen throwing that single chartreuse Colorado blade. I always like it when you lip them and then you just hear the jewelry from the spinner when they jump and you can hear the jewelry clacking together. Like that's a badass sound. Is there a better sound than a big one wallowing around when you hear the blade or the blades hitting together or against something like that? That's just an old school sound that gets everybody going.
How that thump of that blade, then it just goes slack because when they hit just a single Colorado blade spinnerbait, it's like they hit it harder than any other spinnerbait there is.
All right, I'll admit, I throw a lot of Indianas. I'll throw that like coleslaw colored double big Colorado that's like designed for waking that War Eagle makes. But I'm not very well I don't have a big thumping single Colorado, which don't send me hate mail. Listen, I am a power fisherman. I am dink and dunk. I was doing it before it was popular, but I do love a spinnerbait. Like it is hard to beat a 3/4 ounce spot remover War Eagle spinnerbait with a gold and a silver on it. I just wish it was easier to put a trailer on that bait and keep it on there. But like, that's my jam. I love that. We saw spinnerbaits play. How do you decide, like right now, like what spinnerbait were you throwing? What do you think made Adam go with like a single Colorado and not the Indiana? For a couple years, the most popular thing in the world on Grand was an orange kicker with an Indiana. We didn't see anyone that was throwing a spinnerbait throwing that. Like, where are we in the evolution of spinnerbaits and how are we deciding to throw them now?
I think a lot of it this year, we didn't see it play. I mean, we seen it play some, not across the board. We didn't have the watercolor this year,
Okay.
Pretty clean. Now, once you kind of got Sailboat Bridge up the river, it was dirty or had some color to it. And Horse actually did. I went in the back of Horse Creek, and it was prime real estate to me. You had less than 1.5 feet of visibility, and it should have been juicy on that, but I couldn't get it going, or it might have just been a timing deal when I was in it. But you was telling me Rasmussen was out there off those shallow points and stuff. I guess probably finding a little bit chunkier rock or some stumps or some brush, and was slow rolling a big spinnerbait out there. Makes sense. Everybody goes across and throws a crankbait or a biffle bug or a jig, but who in their right mind is going to go throw a spinnerbait out there? And all you got to do, it's like Christy said, if you can get 5 to 7 bites on a big blade at Grand, they're going to be 5 to 7 of the right ones, And that was the same thing with me. I finally put it in my hand on day 4 or day 3 at 1:30. I was like, I'm going to go fish like I like to fish because this other crap is not working for me. Pick up a blade, go up there, throw it behind a dock, get a 3.5, 4-pounder up to the cable. And of course, he's sitting there holding there and then just shakes his head 4 times and the spinnerbait just pops out, tip, like I was not very happy at that moment at all. Cause I was not having a very good day. And then pull into a pocket that I've caught fish out of, but nothing giants, pulled in there and I lose one right off the bat, just knocks my blade sideways and then pull back in the back and catch a 5-pounder off a laydown, just absolutely knocked it hurt when it hit. That's how hard he nailed it. But I kind of wish I'd have run some stuff like that before. Cause I enjoy throwing at targets, throwing a spinnerbait down a laydown or beside a dock, whatever. That's what we grew up doing. And that's what I thoroughly enjoy. I wish we went to some lakes that had some dirty water, and could really go back old school and fish super shallow and do well with it.
Why do so many good spinnerbaiters throw a really heavy spinnerbait in such shallow water?
I think it's more of being able to cover water.
Okay.
Because just like when Christy done really well up there in the classic, he's throwing a 1-ounce spinnerbait with like a number 5. Well, you're getting the thump after that spinnerbait, but he's able to cover water a lot faster. Because if you say you throw a number 6 or number 7 Colorado on that, you can still move it, but it's going to take it a lot. You can't, you're going to half the cast time with the other. And if they're going to hit a spinnerbait, when it's come by that log the first time or second or third, they're going to hit it right there at it. They're not going to follow it 30 foot off the log. You know, I don't know how they might, you know, with sonar, we might be able to figure that out now. But, you know, most of the time when they decide to eat that spinnerbait, they're going to hit it, you know.
Okay, so you're not worried about keeping it in the strike zone for an extended period of time where it's don't. You want to get the thump, but make that decision so you're hitting more targets faster. So even in colder water, even in muddy water with lower visibility, you want it to be there, thump, they either commit or they don't, and you're on to the next target.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking for reaction. You know, I've always, you know, living right here by Toka Lake and stuff, crappie fishing some. And I don't know how many 3 and 4 and 5 pounders we've caught on crappie jigs. If they can find that little bitty 1/8 ounce crappie head jig minnow in chocolate milk, they can feel that damn big spinnerbait rolling down by their head, you know. So that's kind of the way I look at it. If they're going to eat it, they're going to eat it. And I'm only looking for the active fish when I'm fishing shallow anyway. I'm not looking there to finesse them and like, oh, come on, go ahead and eat it. It's okay. You know, I'm there to crack their heads, put them in the box, and get ready for the next one.
That's a really good point. I've done a 22-pound bag of bass crappie fishing where, you know, you're dropping on them with a 1/8 ounce jig and zero visibility. Like it is, you know how, you know, I know you know what we're talking, but I cannot stress enough how little visibility was in the lake. Like as soon as the bait's in the water, it's out of sight, and you'll drop this thing down and you know it's either a 3-pound crappie or a big bass, and they will notice it, stalk it, hunt it out, and then obliterate it. And you're like, my God, we do not give these fish enough credit for being able to find stuff. And I learned that also on Thunderbird. I'm sure you've done this down on some of your lakes is, you know, you're in less than 6 inches of visibility and a bass lights up a jerkbait that's suspended out over nothing. And you're like, how is that even possible?
Exactly. My buddy we fished a deal at Toka Lake, and he picks up a pumpkin seed lizard. You can't even see a pumpkin seed lizard in clear water. And he's throwing this thing, and I'm like, you're like, get out of the boat. You know what I mean? Just jacking with each other. And he catches a 4-pounder. I'm like, and you've seen the fish come from like 6 feet away to come hit his lizard. So these things, we don't give them enough credit on what they can do and stuff like that. So I think the main thing about spinnerbait fishing that I've noticed is you got to have your main thing is confidence in it. I think that's probably across the board with anything. But you've seen Christy, he's the best spinnerbait fisherman there is on the elites. He puts it in his hand and he goes because that's what he has confidence in. You know, Taku's not going to do that because he hates fishing a spinnerbait. You know, he wants to go throw a spinning rod. I mean, that's, you know, and I think that's where he really excels because that's what they don't really cross-reference their strengths. You know, what they can do, and that's why they win when they do. You know, there's no question. If it's a spinnerbait bite, Christy's probably going to beat our heads in.
I think Kioya threw a spinnerbait and a crankbait up shallow in this derby.
Really? I figured. See, I talked to Taku. We were getting gas one night, and I think day 2 when he had the bigger bag.
Yeah.
I said, "Did you find them?" I said they pulled out there on the scope. He said, "Yeah, I found like 1 or 2 big pools and cracked them."
Yeah, it was watching. They said there were over 100 fish, and you could watch them catch them. He's like, they're all bass. But I think when Kioya, am I saying his name right? Finally, I put some time into this, Luke. I've gotten legit some hate mail because I was saying Koya, and then I was like, I do need to learn this right. Kioya.
I'm just like you. I don't.
I should have just say Fujita, but I think he said on stage that he likes power fishing, he likes shallow fishing, and he threw a spinnerbait and a crankbait. He fished 11th in this derby. Yeah, 48 pounds.
I mean, you know, everybody was pounding on him and stuff like he can't do this. I'm guaranteeing you, he's a lot more than what they crack up to be. Yes, is he very good out on live scope? Probably one of the best there is, but you just don't randomly, I mean, just not be good at something else too to get on the leads. You know?
That's what he's saying. He did it on days 2 and 3. Days 1, he scoped, didn't catch him, and then he made a comeback.
Yeah, so I think that, and I think the scoping got better on day 2 and day 3 than it did on day 1. Because when we have sunny conditions, those trash fish would get higher up in the water column, and you couldn't distinguish as much difference in the bass and all the other hoopla out there swimming around.
Mm-hmm.
So
these are basic spinnerbait questions that have been asked for 3 decades, but I want to go back to it because I haven't probably been asked in the last 2.5 years. So you're talking about speed and you want the flash and the thump. So why not go with a big willow then, to where you can cover even more water and keep it deep? Like, when are you, why would a willow? I mean, it wasn't super cold. You're talking about guys catching fish off beds here. Why not a big double willow? Why a Colorado?
I think if I've got a little bit of color to the water, I like that Colorado. I like the thump of it. I think that might be it. Willow, you don't really feel as much. And that's what it, if you used to be a number 5 Hildebrand with an orange kicker was the spinner. Yeah. That was it. You know what I mean? If you only had one in your box in Oklahoma, that's what you were going to have.
Half ounce.
Yeah. Half ounce. That was it. I don't know. I think that I normally, when it gets into the double willow deal, is I'm only throwing it in a shad spawn.
Okay.
That's my main thing there. Now, if you go and you want to throw something, get them out deep on a 1 ounce or something like that, that's a complete different realm of spinner fishing that I don't really do that much. But if I've got any stain at all, if I've got less than 1.5 feet or probably less than a foot of visibility, I like the Indiana and the turtleback blade. That was one of my favorite blades forever. We have that on the War Eagle Finesse and also the Covert series. And I really like that spinnerbait in probably 80% of the times that I can throw one. Just because it gives you a vibration, but it's a different vibration. You can actually still pull that spinnerbait really fast and it not roll over where a Colorado is going to lay over on its side.
Oh, is a turtleback the one that looks like it's kind of folded in half?
Yes.
So it's like a mix between a Colorado and an Indiana blade, but has a high point in the center that the old Mike McClellan Get a Limit spinnerbaits came with.
Yep.
And all the guys would be sneaky and they would buy that spinnerbait, take that blade off and put it on the different frame.
Yes.
On a half ounce frame.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was that too much info?
Gosh dang it. Why you got to do it like that?
All right, let's wrap up the spinnerbait. So I want to go spinnerbait fishing at a couple of the muddy lakes near me in the next couple weeks here. Exactly. If I'm going to give me 2 spinnerbaits, give me a clear water scenario, a muddy water. I want weight, color, blade size, rod, reel, line. I want exactly what you have on your rod that you're throwing in the Bassmaster Classic with $300,000 on the line.
I'll stay with the rod choice. First off, mine's a Falcon. I'm going to be in a head turner. It's either going to be an Expert or a Cara. Either one of those works great for it for me. I like the 610. I can put it
short.
Yeah, I like it because I can get it. Normally I'm target oriented big time when I'm doing that, making short cast pitches. I can roll cast better with that rod. I like the 7.2 swim jig rod too, but 610 is my definite go-to. I'm a 16 to 20 pound sunline shooter. I don't want any stretch. I want to feel them. I want to hit them and get them in the boat, as quick as possible. As far as if it's really, really muddy, I like the Covert series from Booyah. I like that bigger blade. Primarily, I'm going to be a half ounce guy if I've got dirty water, a half ounce is my go-to size because I can still cover water. And I'll normally, if it's got a number 5 blade on it, I'll drop it to a number 4.5. I know it's not much difference, but it helps that spinnerbait speed up quite a bit. My other one is a War Eagle Finesse spinnerbait. Whenever you've got just a little bit of color to the water, that little turtleback blade on it, it's really good. I mean, and then you can even throw that in clean water too, because you can still move it. I throw it in a 5/16. It's that smaller profile. You can really feather it through laydowns and stuff. if it is a little bit colder, if those fish are not wanting to just really move out too fast on it, that spinnerbait will do it really well. It's hard to get away from chartreuse and white. You know, no matter where we go in the country, it seems like you can throw a chartreuse and white spinnerbait if you make it a simple choice. You only have a couple of colors, fishing on a budget like we always have been. Get some chartreuse and white spinnerbaits and you're okay.
Have you noticed when you are spinnerbait fishing, you mentioned it seems like the fish shoot with, have you been able to look at the scope and see fish shoot up from the logs and eat it? You said, we're not really sure where it is, but is that something that you're still going to look around and you can see it come up, or do you just go and there's a lot of fish that are tucked in, that are hidden, that are behind hard objects, and you don't even want to know? You just want to visually look at it when that bite is on and make decisions as you go, not based on electronics.
I don't really use it, because if you just solely base your life off of it, then you're going to miss a few fish. And how long is it going to take you to scope a stump, say it's in 2 or 3 foot of water, and you've got to go by it to look at both sides of it? Well, hell, I've already hit 4 more stumps by the time you got done looking at one. And so I want to cover tons of water, put the trolling motor on 40 or 50% and just go, and just hit everything in sight. And I'm only wanting, 5, 6, 7 bites a day on a big spinnerbait. That's my goal. If I can get that, I'm happy. I know that's a long day. I would rather go do that as I would go set out in the middle. I do love catching fish off scope. It's fun, but there's nothing like when that big spinnerbait rolls by that log and it just gets freaking drilled. That's my favorite.
Guys are headed to Florida for the Florida Swing. Very interesting Florida Swing, especially after 2 slugfests on Toledo Bend and Lake Fork. You guys are there in April. I don't think there's a lot of guys that have touched the St. John's and the Harris Chain that time of year before. You're an Oklahoma guy. You've had success all over the country. Now you're a 5-year veteran of the Elite Series, so you've had your taste in Florida. Is this going to be a little bit different than what we're used to watching going to Florida this time of the year? And you think there's going to be some different things in play that we typically don't see at the start of the season in January or February?
Yeah, I think there might be a little more consistency. Everybody said, March and April is really the best time to be there. For us, we're always going in February. And what happens every time we go to Florida? A giant cold front comes through and messes it up, it seems like. So I'm kind of anxious to get there. I don't know what to expect. I'm sure the topwater deal is going to play a lot more now. I really wish there was just mats everywhere and I could pick up, 60-pound FX2 and just go to cracking on them with an 8-foot rod. That would be the funnest thing in the world. But I'm sure the shell bed deal is going to be a major player because they're going to be fish spawning. It's not like they just only spawn in February and March, so I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I think, we're going to get those swim jigs and heck, we might even have a buzz bait tied on and try to do it, but I'm sure the old devil horse is still going to catch a few, and I'm still going to have a, speed worm type stuff like that, or, a thumping dinger, and just go fishing.
One of the cool things that I've enjoyed is getting to know a different side of your personality through the Living the Bass Life series. What's your cameraman's name? You guys are.
He's my best friend, but his name.
I don't know how. I don't want to say Dumb and Dumber, or I don't want to say Tweedledee. I'm trying to think of like a respectful yet fun-loving duo that is in the general public like that to compare you two in the Living the Bass Life series.
It'd probably Dumb and Dumber would probably go better.
Okay, that would, but
we showed up at the classic in the Dumb and Dumber suits. That about fit us.
I did notice that did turn some heads. What he had the all orange suit,
yes,
and you had the baby powder blue suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know when he's gonna. I know he's already got Toledo and Fork dropped on the YouTube. I'm sure the classic will drop here. It'll probably take him 2 weeks because he's got a ton of footage to go through on it. But yeah, Aaron Scripcheck is his last name. You asked me how to spell it. There's no way I could do it either right now. And anybody asked me, I just have to screenshot his name and send to him because there's no way I could spell it. Vowel thing, and there's like 72 letters in it.
Nope. That's funny. Really quality entertainment, a lot of information in it. You could tell that you genuinely like being out on the water, that you're having a great time on the Elite series. I think the most undervalued YouTube series out there right now, especially with the production quality, as much time and effort is put into it. These things should be getting 30, 40,000 views for every single one. But check it out. Live in the Bass Life series, Luke Palmer Fishing on YouTube. There's shorts. There's already Lake Fork is out. Toledo Bend is out. You kind of go really behind the scenes on what it is, and you have a lot of fun doing it. Incredibly genuine series that I look forward to every time one drops. So congratulations on that, and hopefully you just keep growing and getting that bigger and bigger.
Oh yeah, it's been a blast. I didn't ever think I would like doing that, but with Aaron, hell, he's like my best buddy. We do everything together, and he's been with me since February 1, and he's going to go home for pretty much 3 weeks until September. So we get along great. I mean, like I said, we have a blast, and we get to cut up and have a good time. That's the main thing. I mean, you know, we're all here for a greater purpose other than just fishing, and but we do get to have the biggest blessing and do what we love and enjoy it. So it's fun, stressful, and you get to see anything and everything in between too. Probably not everything in between, because it wouldn't go very well then. But most of it will show that to you.
All right, I'm going to let you go. Like I said, I appreciate you driving into town to sit in the old truck, well, new truck, but to sit in the truck and do the show. Greatly appreciate it. Always enjoy having you on. Anything else you want to get in before I let you go?
No, I'm just ready to get to. Well, I'm actually ready to hang out at home for about a week or two, but we leave Sunday for Florida, so yippee skippy.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that. So you guys leave Easter Sunday?
Well, we're going to, because we're going to stop by Smith and Wheeler on the way for 2 days each, and then we practice the next Sunday or Monday. So get back in the truck and go to driving. That's what we love.
Predict right now, winning baits in Florida, one for each tournament. I'm curious if it'll be a Florida bait or not. St. John's River, what wins it? Just bait. You don't have to say where, what, at. I'm just curious what's tied on the end of the winning rod.
Dang. Maybe a swim jig. That'd be sweet.
Ooh, that would be fun to watch.
That could happen, because Clint Davis always cracks him on a swim jig. He loves a swim jig. Late guy. And he always does really well on it. It's just getting them out of the stuff. You know, I get, is there shad spawn down there then? You know,
I have no idea. I'm not a Florida guy. I just go down there and try not to suck. That's my game plan in the opens.
So that's going to be an issue. And the other one,
it's Harris chain, right?
Yeah, Harris chain. You know, it's probably going to be a Buddy. He won it out there on a shell bed last time. That's going to be a big player, obviously. I don't know. I hope it's a woolly bug.
Swim jig and a woolly bug.
Swim jig and a woolly bug. I'd like to go. That's what I caught him last time, Harris Shane. I was flipping, but my wind switched and started blowing 40 out the other way, and my fish were in 6 inches of water. So that doesn't jive in Florida.
All right, Luke, I'm going to let you go. Solid classic. You didn't have to go to the expo. If you're not going to win it, at least don't go to the expo.
That's the main goal.
Or you could just pull a Milliken and not go to the expo, even if you were in the top 25, but that's understandable.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, so I've got to be there.
Yeah, but you got logos on the side of your boat. He did it right. He did it where he doesn't have any logos on the side of his boat, so he's a free agent.
Yeah, but I still, if I wouldn't have made it, I'm still going to be at the expo. I like seeing all the people. You know, even if you do have a bad tournament, going and seeing the people that's to me what shows up for everything. You know, they're what makes it for us. They're what fills the stands. Those are the ones giving us the views, and you know, that's why to me it's the biggest stage and the best stage. When you get to show up to the stands and hold the fish up, that was the real deal.
Well said. Thanks for jumping on BTL, Luke.
All right, see you, buddy.
All right, that is Oklahoma's Luke Palmer. One of the most consistent anglers on tour, well known in the area. And then when he went national, everyone went, dude, this guy looks like a guy who's very one-dimensional, but he fishes with a wide repertoire of tactics and techniques. And then you see him get the win and the passion behind it. Really proud to be able to call him an Oklahoma pro, along with the rest of the guys who are out on tour. So we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, wrap things up, look ahead to the rest of the week. We do have some unique times for the show, with it being a holiday weekend. Uncle Frank has made it back to Ohio, and we are doing a live show on Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have some information on the 5 color number 7 Frank Scalish signed spooks that we'll be giving away for those who weren't able to attend the Classic. We're going to talk about the Classic, some of the awesome listeners and viewers that we met. We got a couple of awesome gifts. We're going to dive into Uncle Frank's signature series line of apparel, which he got to see, also available on basszone.com for 13 more days under the Shop BTL tab. And like once that closes, it's done. Like, you won't be able to get any more of the apparel in that drop after. It's kind of like a one and done deal. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just the way it was. So we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, wrap things up. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Breaks Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Breaks, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Breaks Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Yes. Fishing isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession. Whether it's blazing hot or bitterly cold, bright sunshine, raining, or even snowing. Someplace, somewhere, there's a fish that's ready to bite. And as the angler, you need baits that will catch the fish anywhere, anytime, no matter the conditions. From throwing topwaters to cranking the depths, know the baits to throw. Choose Spro.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Tuesday, BTL. Big shout out to Luke Palmer for jumping on, talking about the 54th Bassmaster Classic. Guys are already looking ahead to the 55th down in Fort Worth on Lake Ray Roberts. I know some guys have already been out there practicing for that tournament next March who haven't even qualified yet. They're just banking on it so they can get the skill. A couple things, more things that were mentioned in the Bassmaster Classic or that happened in the Bassmaster Classic on stage that we haven't talked about. Yes, a couple guys have asked about, do you know anything or what's up with Hank Cherry? Hank, back-to-back Bassmaster Classic champ. I think he has 4 top 10s in his 8 Bassmaster Classics, and then his other win is in an all-star event. They were calling him the Mr. October of Fish, and it looked like he was going to have a legit shot to compete for this thing, especially after the first day when he was catching so many quality fish. And then he got up on stage and said a lot of cryptic stuff at the end about how he was, closer. He has more weigh-ins behind him than he does ahead of him, and this will probably be the last time he's ever at the BOK Center stage, and how much that meant to him. I don't know what his game plan is. I'm not, personally close with Hank. He's always been very cordial, giving good interviews, said hi. Just not a guy that I just call up and chat with like, hey, well, what'd you mean by that? Classic week is very taxing. I know like what Luke Palmer just said, it could have just been tired and it's a long road to get back to the Classic. Maybe he has an exit strategy or a game plan. I mean, dude, like these guys bust their butt 24 hours a day, 365 to be on the Elite Series, to be on the top of the game. Hank has accomplished an incredible amount in this sport. Yeah, he's, chasing an angler year. I don't know what's important to him, but back-to-back Classics, I think, if that desire isn't there, if you want to spend more time with family, if you want to hang out with the kid and do that, I mean, dude, he's earned that right. Hell, anyone's earned that right to do what Hallman did, which was come back to the Elite Series for a year and not, it wasn't what he expected it to. He doesn't have to. He doesn't owe. No one owes anything to anyone in this sport. Individual sport with a lot of sacrifice to get up to that top level. And as I get older and as you talk to guys who have been in this for a long time, it's amazing. Like you realize you have to make the decision that is best for you and your family, because I mean, you only get one shot at this thing, and you don't want to look back and say, boy, I wish I had tried harder or stayed longer, but you also don't want to look back and say, man, look at all the things that I missed to chase something that I wasn't enjoying, that wasn't my passion, or that was affecting other people in my life. I think that's also part of the reason why we're seeing so many of the younger anglers. I think there's always been younger anglers. We forget the Kelly Jordans, the Gary Kleins, hell, the Brandon Poliniks when he first came on through the Bass Nation Federation. There's been the Jacob Wheelers and all these guys. There's been a lot of really young guys that have come in and been extremely successful against older veteran anglers. I just think with social media and it's, in our face 24/7 now, and you can look at, I think it's just a lot more apparent that you see it. But those younger kids, man, one track mind, focus, 365, 7 days a week on the water. We talk about how much time Tyler Williams spent practicing for the Classic. I've sat here across from a lot of guys in their 20s, and those guys they feel the passion, the burn to be on the water every single day. And sometimes that lasts for an entire career. I mean, look at how long Kevin was able to keep that up. And he had a lot of things going on and off the water. You shake Rick Klun's hand, who's fishing his 50th year of competitive fishing as well. But those younger anglers, like I remember talking with Timmy Horton, and I've told this story, I think once before on BTL. I was doing some media work. This was a long time ago on Lake St. Clair. And believe it or not, we were doing a Duck It on tour coverage of the Elite Series. So I jumped in with Tim Horton and we were talking. He said, man, I remember the year, he said, when I won that Rookie of the Year, he said, it physically hurt me. Like I had my chest like felt like it would explode every time I wanted to to get back on the water the next day. If I had a good day, it fired me up that much more to get on the water even the next day. And if I had a bad day, he goes, I could not wait to get back on the water and atone for that bad day. And he said, I just carried that through for a couple years. He said, and then things start happening and you have the sponsor obligations, the family, all that. It's all good. He just said that when that dies, it's really hard to compete at that 0.0001% level, that the top level in the world without that drive. So I think it's been going on for the last 60 years in professional fishing, that kind of balance of dedication when you hang it up, how you retire, because this is a sport where as long as you're staying competitive for the most part, I mean, you can kind of pick your retirement. It's not a stick and ball sport where there's a few guys that get to pick when they go out, but there's a lot of guys that they're just forced out. I mean, they're not needed anymore. Their talent, their retirement is picked for them. They don't get to pick that for them. So I know there's a lot. Fishing's a little bit different. Like I said, 50 years with Rick Clunn, which is also a beautiful thing about the sport too, because you can see a guy who has been down for a number of years and you're like, boy, that guy needs to retire. And then he goes to St. John's River, blasts him on a chatterbait and is wrangling 8 or 9 pounders in. It says, never believe that your best days are behind you. And you watch his kid carry the 30-pound sack up to the stage and he holds him up and he gets the 100,000, and all of the competitors that are supposed to be at another tournament stick around and watch him weigh in. That's something that's really cool about fishing that we have. So, all right, tomorrow, Matt Steffen returns to BTL, regularly scheduled time, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. And then another 2-show day, 6:30 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday. Day 4 with Frank Scalish on a Wednesday. And then Friday, guide day with Casey Scanlon, talking guiding on one of the busiest lakes in the country, Lake of the Ozarks. Really enjoyed that show with Casey Scanlon. A lot of good suggestions for guide day in my inbox. Talked to a lot of people. I would try to get to as many of those as I can. Until then, that's all we got for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.